Ndamukong said, "See you later" to Detroit, and took his talents and sometimes uncontrollable spoiled brat type of rage to South Beach. Suh is the most vilified player in the game today due to his temper and sometimes deliberate and designed strokes of dirty play. We all remember the stomping incident on Thanksgiving Day against former Packers lineman Evan Dietrich Smith. That's just one of many personal fouls he's piled up since his rookie year in 2010. In fact, no other defensive tackle has more personal foul infractions since he's come into the league. With an impatient fan base seeking a playoff win for the first time in 15 years, however, that didn't stop Miami owner Stephen Ross from snagging the biggest shark in free agency. Suh received a 6-year, $114 million contract from the Dolphins, becoming the highest non-paid quarterback in the league. $60 million of that is guaranteed. All of a sudden now, with Suh, Cameron Wake, and Olivier Vernon, the Dolphins have one of the most imposing defensive lines in the league. But that's, of course, if Suh is motivated, because as we've seen in past history, look what happened with Albert Hainsworth after he got 9 figures. As for the 2014's top-ranked run defense of the Lions, who also lost Nick Fairley, they went out and traded for the aging but still productive Haloti Ngata. Not a bad replacement, but just how much of a downgrade is it? You'll find out soon where Ngata lands in my rankings. And I'll tell you what, this is a great crop of defensive tackles in the game at the moment. The 4-3 defensive end group is a little bit lackluster, but not at tackle. There are some truly elite players at the top of this list. Cameron Wake was an 8.8 and atop my defensive end rankings, but there are 3 defensive tackles rated at least 8.8 or higher here. So what do I look for in a defensive tackle? Well, you got to be strong, quick, and tough. Strength, being able to maintain position in the running lanes, neutralize blocks, and hold ground, playing with leverage, and splitting double teams. Quickness, having quick feet for slants and twists to shoot the gaps and create penetration. Toughness, being able to play with a mean streak and get back up when you get double teamed and beaten up for most of the game. So on to my rankings. The highest paid defensive player in the NFL is also the top ranked defensive tackle on my list. Suh still hasn't been able to match his career high sack total of 10 during his rookie season, but 8.5 last season is certainly nothing to scoff at. He leads all defensive tackles with 36 sacks and 239 tackles over the past 5 seasons, but his 35 penalties are also the most during that time. He's the quickest off the snap at any defensive tackle in the league, and if your blocker doesn't have elite recovery speed, you can forget about stopping him. And not only can he beat you with his quickness off the snap, his immense power allows him to push the pocket. If there is one thing that Suh's learned since his impressive rookie season, it's patience and awareness, especially in the run game. He would get upfield so quickly that opposing offenses would use this against him, but he's grown up a lot, and he's gotten a lot more keen since. Gerald McCoy is number 2 on my list at 6'4", 295. McCoy is a bit taller than most 3 techniques, but he's the best one in the business today. A pair of torn biceps cut short his first 2 seasons in the league, but he's been healthy and wreaking havoc on opposing offenses since. After recording 9.5 sacks in 2013, he put up 8.5 more sacks a year ago. I believe he's the best pass-rushing defensive tackle in the game, and that includes Suh. He has great length, size, quickness, body control, great power in his hands, and a high motor. Plays with great technique and natural leverage. It's amazing how much pressure he gets on the quarterback, considering the lack of disruption McCoy gets from the outside rushers at Tampa Bay. Not a lot of depth there. If McCoy does have a weakness in his game, it's when teams run at him, but when they don't, he can penetrate into the backfield. Aaron Donald, who led all rookies last season with 9 sacks, checks in at number 3. And with a great nucleus around him along the defensive line there in St. Louis, the undersized 3 technique, well, he won't have to worry about being double-teamed. He uses his 6'1" frame to get really low, and that low center of gravity makes it extremely difficult for opposing linemen to get their hands underneath his pads. His first step quickness is top-notch. He has the flexibility to dip and bend. In the run game, his quickness and great use of leverage helps him get guards and centers turned. He's great at stuffing the inside run. Overall, just a very impressive campaign for the Defensive Rookie of the Year. The elite defensive tackles just keep on coming as Marcell Dareus checks in at number 4. He's another D tackle who can get into the backfield and pressure the quarterback, notching 10 sacks. That is outstanding considering how much he's asked to take on blockers to free up outside rushers. He's a long arm power player who is impossible to keep blocked. He's a great bull rusher due to his upper body strength and is quicker than you'd think for a 320-pounder to close in on the quarterback. Although he put up the gaudy sack total, I don't think he's as good of a pass rusher as the top 3 on my list, but I do believe he's the best run stuffer of that quartet. He's great at splitting gaps and finding the ball carrier. Dareus' teammate, Kyle Williams, is number 5 on my list, and as good of a run stuffer as Dareus is, Williams is even better. Plays with a high motor and intensity. He can slip blocks and get into the backfield. He's a lot more athletic than he appears. He also does a great job at anchoring linemen to free up linebackers. He's not known for having a bevy of pass rushing moves, but he just beats you with his leverage. He's extremely powerful in his lower body to push blockers backwards. Geno Atkins is number 6, and he's a guy that's been the top dog on prior lists before tearing his ACL midway through the 2013 season. They say it takes at least 2 years to return from knee injuries, like this. So we'll see if he can get anywhere close to his 2012 type of production when he tallied 12.5 sacks, which is just unheard of for a 3-technique defensive tackle. During that season, Atkins had a great first step, unparalleled quickness. He just simply hasn't returned to that form, and it's why he's number 6, but still a very, very good player. As a run stuffer, Atkins plays with great instincts. He uses his lower body strength to his advantage. So, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I really, really liked a few years ago, and we'll see if he can bounce back to those, kind of gaudy numbers this season. So, we'll see. Sharrif Floyd is number 7, coming off a so-so rookie campaign. He took a huge leap forward in 2014, flourishing in Mike Zimmer's defensive scheme. His improvement in technique helped him dominate opposing linemen. He has great quickness off the ball, recording 4.5 sacks, 5 hits, and 20 hurries. Equally stout stopping the run, uses his hands extremely well. Johnathan Hankins, another breakout performer last season, is number 8 on my list. Posted 7 sacks and 51 tackles a year ago. To also go with 6 quarterback hits and 21 hurries. He turns guards around right off the snap. Very, very quick first step. Has a lot of power, too, to drive them backwards. As a run stuffer, he uses that quickness to get into the backfield. Yet another breakout performer is number 9. That's Kawann Short of Carolina. Like Floyd and Hankins, Short, fantastic sophomore season a year ago. Has a lot of strength and uses it to his advantage when bull rushing. Converts speed to power to drive guards and centers backwards. Playing in front of Luke Kuechly really paved the way for him by absorbing blocks. In the run game, he can line up in a gap or head on and make plays. Once again, his power really comes in handy. If he does have a weakness, he has to do a better job of this diagnosing play action. But other than that, really, really good player. Suh's replacement in Detroit, Ngata, rounds off my top 10. 31-year-old is obviously not the elite player he used to be, which led Baltimore to trading him to shed $8.5 million in salary. That was the cap hit in his final year of his deal. At 6'4", 340, still, one of the best 2-gap space eaters in the game. Still successful at shedding blocks and getting to the ball carrier. Despite his age, he can still move and make athletic plays for a man of his massive girth and size. Sen'Derrick Marks is 11th, Dan Williams 12th, Star Lotulelei 13th, Tyrone Crawford 14th, Nick Fairley 15th, Jared Odrick 16th, Henry Melton 17th, Brandon MeBane 18th, Tyrunn Walker 19th, and Sealver Siliga 20th. There's a lot of interesting and underrated names that I just uttered out there in that 10. I kept flip-flopping between Marks and Ngata for that coveted 10th spot, but ultimately went with Ngata because Marks is coming off an ACL tear. Extremely quick and versatile pass rusher. Uses that quickness to disrupt the backfield in the run game as well. But he can be pushed a little bit around, however. Williams got a nice little 4-year deal with the Oakland Raiders during the offseason. His ability at nose tackle for Arizona last season allowed Calais Campbell to record 7 sacks, and Alex Okafor got 8 sacks. Crawford is a guy that I like a lot in Dallas. Moved from defensive end to the 3 technique last year, had 3 sacks, did really, really well against the run. The talented but inconsistent Fairley will now be coming off the pine after signing with the Rams during the offseason, so we'll see how he goes. I mean, you pair him up on that line, I think he'll be successful. Odrick, meanwhile, goes from coming off the bench to becoming a starter in Jacksonville, so kind of, switching trades there. Melton is reunited with Lovie Smith in Tampa Bay, played for Smith in Chicago from 2010 to 2013, coming off a 1-year stay in Dallas where the pass rushing specialist tallied 5 sacks. Walker is replacing Fairley as a starter in Detroit. A bit of a gamble considering he's a part-time player at New Orleans, but I thought Walker really, really shined in limited capacity, showcasing quickness as a pass rusher. He's just, not really that great as a run defender. And then there's Siliga, whose name is pronounced a lot different than it looks on paper. The Samoan is somehow underrated considering he's on the Super Bowl champion Patriots, but then again, most of these gargantuan run-stuffing defensive tackles don't get enough respect. Some other underrated guys that I like, there's Tom Johnson at 24 and Justin Ellis at 37. So that's it. Those are the D tackles. So if you got any opinions on this, if you have any gripes with any of my guys that I listed, make sure you let me know in the comment section who's your top 5, who's your top 10, who are some breakout guys that you like. So let me know, and I will definitely respond. So make sure you follow us on Twitter @TheBitterBirds. I'm out of here. Later. Take care. Peace.